It's been a rough year, everybody.
Hello, Adam Ryan Donato.
Hello, welcome back to another Hard Review, and I am here to talk about what is now one of my favorite movies of the year, A Different Man. Now, the film is directed and written by Aaron Schimberg. I have not seen anything else that he has done, but now I definitely want to. The film stars Sebastian Stan, Adam Pearson, and Renate Rizzovic, the worst person in the world. I knew nothing about this movie going into it, and boy was I pleasantly surprised, and it was such a wonderful experience because I didn't know what I was going to be getting here. This movie is so unpredictable. There's so many twists and turns. It's constantly subverting my expectations. It's constantly making decisions that I'm like, wow, that's super crazy cool and interesting. What a great direction for this movie to go in. There's this joke in Community, the episode where Abed is making a movie about Jesus called Abed. It's like a movie within a movie, and he's explaining that to Shirley. He's like, yeah, it's about a filmmaker making a movie about Jesus. It's like a movie within a movie kind of situation. And she's like, oh, that sounds very appealing to filmmakers. And that's kind of how I feel about this movie here. Like, it's so up its own ass. It's so snake eating the snake's tail. I could definitely see cinephiles eating this up, but regular people just not enjoying this whatsoever. This is one I would love to take my parents to go see because they'd just be like, what the fuck? So without trying to spoil too much, obviously this movie is about a man who has a deformed face of some kind. He just lives like the most sad life. He lives in a dinky apartment. He has it's leaking from the ceiling, and he just does nothing about it. He's not really exceeding at his job or just in life in general, and you could tell that there's a lot of want and desire for more. He is not satisfied with his life. Then he finds out that there's this miracle cure drug or some kind of situation where he can fix his situation, and we go from there. Now, one thing I was very happy about with this movie is that it wasn't just a pity party. I understand there's a lot of movies that are just about okay, so here is a tragic situation. We're just going to show you that tragic situation. We're going to let you sit in it. Here's all the details of it. Here's how it makes people feel. And it's just going to be a sad, miserable movie the entire time. This wasn't that, because it was that for maybe 20 minutes. And then we take a wild shift into a much more interesting idea. One thing I love about this movie is I feel like it had a lot to say about proactivity. Also about casting in Hollywood. Very regularly, there's the debate where you're kind of screwed either way. There's a lot of debate with the new Matt Walsh Am I Racist movie, and it kind of reminds me of that problem where it's anything really can be misconstrued as racist, or anything can be misconstrued as some kind of cancelable act. So when you're making a movie, let's say you're making a movie about a trans person, can a actor that's not trans play that role? It's called acting, right? They're not literally Andy Serkis isn't literally becoming a little golem creature or King Kong. He's doing a performance. There's a certain amount of suspension of disbelief that is occurring. I understand that people are oh, well, it should be a trans person playing that role because there's not a lot of role for trans people out there. But on the flip side, is it exploitative to make a movie with a trans person, starring a trans person, only casting that person because they objectively fit the criteria of the role and not because their performance is necessarily that great? It's just a very complicated situation. And either way, people are going to be mad. They're going to be mad at Scarlett Johansson for being in the Ghost in the Shell movie. They're going to be mad that Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs doesn't, is CGI creatures instead of actual, little people out there who, want roles and need roles. And if this is not a role that they can do, then what are you going to do, kind of a thing. So this movie kind of tackles that problem head on, and I really do appreciate that. And it really does cover its own ass, because it'll take a side and then it'll literally have a character be oh, but the opposite side, and then they'll switch over to the opposite side and they'll be oh, but the first side again, though. And it's well, there's no satisfying everybody. Someone's going to be mad about it. I love the performances so much in this movie. I will probably nominate everyone in this movie. Sebastian Stan for lead, Renate Rizzovic, I'm so sorry, Renate, for supporting actress, and then Adam Pearson for best supporting actor. He's wonderful in this. You just expect a movie like this to go in a specific direction, be about specific stuff, and make you feel specific ways, but it doesn't do that at all. It starts like that, and then it completely flips things on its head and really makes you think about it. Put in my Letterboxd review, I said, luminous beings are we, not this crude matter, which is obviously a Star Wars quote. But that's what this movie's all about, It's about your perspective. It's about how we are all the masters of our own universe. The world is ours to perceive how we choose to perceive the world and ourselves, the disposition that we carry ourselves with, and the attitude that we choose to attack back the day with. This movie was super uncomfortable. It made me think a bunch. It was kind of funny in weird parts, like especially during the first 20 minutes, like there was some, very like openly comedic moments, and I'm like, well, this is not that kind of movie. It's a very depressing, sad movie. So these moments of comedic relief were super satisfying in those moments, especially once I realized the direction that this movie was going in. I love the final moment of this movie. It makes me think a whole bunch. This movie's gonna stick with me for a while. When the movie ended, I turned to my buddy and I said, well, it's not better than Dune Part 2, but you know what? I think I am going to put this down as my favorite movie of 2024 so far. Obviously, we have 3 months left and the 3 best months, let's be honest. But I would love to see how it sits with me putting this ahead of Dune Part 2, because if Dune Part 2 is my favorite movie of the year, then it's like, you know what I mean? Like one of the most popular consensus best movies of the year. Not that I'm trying to have a dissenting opinion. I don't know. I would just like to personally connect with something rather than like glob on to a giant blockbuster that's trying to satisfy as many people as possible. Not that Dune is as cynical as something like a Marvel movie or whatnot. Something like this, I don't already have a pre-existing love for this story. I love the first Dune movie, so going into the Dune Part 2, it's like, well, yeah, of course I'm gonna love this. I love the first part, and this has more of the like climactic stuff in it. But A Different Man, I came in starting from scratch and I had a wonderful experience. I had a very physical experience. Like there's moments where I'm like covering my face, I'm laughing, I'm like leaning up in my seat, on the edge of my seat, my jaw dropped. I loved the experience of watching this movie and I can't wait to show it to other people. 5 out of 5 for me. I am a huge fan of A Different Man and I'm just so grateful and happy that I finally gave out a 5 out of 5 for the first time since Bike Riders back in June. So go see this movie, check it out in theaters. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe. Why don't you guys tell me what your favorite Sebastian Stan movie is? Actually, I'm probably gonna go outside of his Marvel stuff. I really like Fresh. I think Fresh is a lot of fun. It's almost that time of year for some spooky, fun, good time movie.